Welcome to Infidelity Love, the home of deep, emotional, and truth-filled stories that will stir your heart, challenge your mind, and keep you coming back for more. Here, we tell the real side of love, not just the happy endings, but the broken promises, the silent tears, the guilt, the betrayal, and the lessons that follow. If you've ever been hurt, loved the wrong person, or carried a secret too heavy to tell, you're not alone. These stories will speak to your soul. Subscribe now, turn on the bell, and join a growing community where every story has a lesson and every heart has a voice. Because at Infidelity Love, we don't just tell stories, we reveal truths. The sun rose gently over the quiet neighborhood, the sky was soft blue, and birds sang in the trees. It was a peaceful morning in Roseville. Inside a lovely white house with flower beds in front, lived a man named Thomas and his wife, Lila. Thomas was tall and strong. He had kind eyes and always wore a smile. He worked at the bank and always came home early. He loved his wife deeply and never forgot to say "I love you" every single day. He liked to cook breakfast for Lila. On this morning, he was making pancakes with strawberries and honey. He whistled softly as the sweet smell filled the kitchen. Lila came down the stairs slowly. She was very beautiful. Her hair was dark and shiny, her skin smooth like silk. She wore a red robe and rubbed her eyes like she didn't sleep well. She smiled at Thomas, but it wasn't a real smile. It was the kind of smile that looks happy but feels empty inside. "Good morning, sweetheart," Thomas said cheerfully. "Pancakes are ready." "Thanks," Lila replied quietly and sat at the table. She looked at the pancakes but didn't eat right away. Her fingers played with the fork. Thomas sat beside her. "You okay, babe?" Lila nodded quickly. "Yeah, just a little tired." But inside, her heart was heavy. She didn't feel happy. She didn't feel thankful. Even though Thomas was loving and kind, her mind was somewhere else. Someone else. Outside the window, the wind moved the leaves. The sun made the curtains glow soft and golden. It was a beautiful morning. But inside the house, something was broken. Thomas didn't know that Lila had a secret. A big secret. Later that day, after Thomas left for work, Lila stood by the mirror in their bedroom. She looked at herself. Her eyes looked sad. Her lips shook a little. "Why do I feel this way?" she whispered to herself. "Why can't I stop?" She picked up her phone. Her fingers hesitated. Then she typed a message. "Are you free this afternoon?" she wrote. Her heart beat fast. She knew it was wrong. She knew Thomas didn't deserve this. He was good. He was true. But something inside Lila felt empty, and she didn't know how to fill it. That afternoon, she dressed quickly and left the house. She didn't look back. Back at the bank, Thomas looked at a picture of Lila on his desk. He smiled and said to his coworker, "My wife is amazing. I'm so lucky." He had no idea what was happening behind his back. The sun kept shining. The birds kept singing. But in Thomas's heart, clouds were coming. And he didn't even know it yet. The hotel room smelled like fresh linen and roses. The curtains were pulled halfway, letting in golden afternoon light. The bed was made, neat and clean, but the silence in the room felt thick, almost like it knew something wrong was about to happen. Lila stood near the window, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Her face was calm, but her eyes looked nervous. Her phone buzzed on the glass table. She didn't look at it right away. She just stared out the window, watching cars pass by on the street below. Then came a soft knock on the door. Her heart skipped. She didn't move for a moment. Then she walked slowly to the door and opened it. "Hey," said the man standing there. His name was Damon. He was tall with light brown skin and soft brown eyes. His smile was wide but didn't reach his eyes. He looked at Lila like she was something he owned. Lila stepped aside to let him in. She didn't smile, but she didn't stop him either. They sat on the edge of the bed. Damon touched her hand, and she didn't pull away. "You missed me," he said in a smooth voice. "I shouldn't be here," Lila whispered. "But you are," Damon said, leaning closer. "Like always." Lila closed her eyes. Her heart beat fast. She knew she should leave. She knew she should go back home. But something inside her felt numb when she wasn't with Damon. It wasn't love. It wasn't even joy. It was like he helped her forget something, even if just for a while. They kissed. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't special. But Lila didn't stop. After, she lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. Her stomach hurt. Her chest felt heavy. "You never smile anymore," Damon said as he buttoned his shirt. Maybe I forgot how, she answered quietly. He didn't respond. He grabbed his phone, checked it, then walked toward the door. See you next week. Lila didn't answer. Damon left. She stayed on the bed for a long time. The sun moved across the wall. Her phone buzzed again. It was Thomas. Thomas, dinner at 7? Your favorite, lemon chicken. Lila felt like crying, but the tears wouldn't come. She sat up slowly and looked at herself in the mirror across the room. Her makeup was still perfect, but her eyes looked empty. Back at home, Thomas was wearing an apron. He hummed to himself while stirring the sauce. The house smelled delicious. He set the table with candles, smiling as he placed a tiny flower in a vase, Lila's favorite, a pink daisy. He checked the time. Almost 6:45. He didn't know she was still across town, standing in front of a mirror in a hotel room, feeling like she had just lost another piece of herself. She finally left and drove home. The sky had turned orange and purple. The roads were quiet. She thought about turning the car around. She thought about telling Thomas the truth. But when she walked into the house and saw him smiling with 2 plates in his hands, she smiled back. It wasn't real. Dinner's ready, Thomas said. You'll love it. Lila sat down, her hands shaking under the table. She said, it smells amazing. And just like that, the lie lived one more night. The next morning, the sky was gray. Clouds moved slowly across the sky, like they were carrying a secret. Rain began to fall gently, tapping the windows of the house. Inside the bedroom, Thomas was still asleep. His chest rose and fell quietly under the warm blanket. His arm was stretched toward Lila's side of the bed. But Lila wasn't there. She was in the bathroom, sitting on the cold tile floor. Her knees were pulled up to her chest, and her arms were wrapped around them. Her eyes were red from crying. She didn't want to wake Thomas. She didn't want him to see her like this. She looked at the mirror on the wall. Her reflection stared back, pale and tired. She hated what she saw, not because she was ugly, but because she knew what she had become. I'm not this person, she whispered. I'm not. But she was, and she knew it. Her phone was on the counter, buzzing again. She picked it up slowly. It was another message from Damon. Damon, same time next week? Lila stared at the message. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Then she locked the phone and put it down like it was something dangerous. She felt sick. Thomas's voice came softly from the bedroom. Lila. She quickly wiped her eyes and stood up. I'm here, she called, trying to sound normal. He came to the door, his hair messy and his eyes still sleepy. He smiled at her the way he always did, with trust. You okay? Yeah, she said. Just woke up early. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. I'll make coffee. As he walked away, Lila felt her heart break again. How could he be so good, so gentle, while she was living a lie? Later that day, Thomas went to work. Lila stayed home, curled up on the couch with a blanket. The rain outside was soft, like a whisper. Inside, everything was quiet. She opened her old photo album. It was filled with pictures of her and Thomas from years ago. Their wedding day, their first trip to the beach, birthdays, holidays, moments full of laughter. She touched the photo of them standing under a big oak tree, both smiling with sunlight on their faces. Back then, she loved him completely. So what happened? The doorbell rang, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was her best friend, Clara. Clara had long curly hair and eyes that could read emotions like books. She stepped in with a hug and a frown. You look tired, Clara said gently. Want to talk? Lila shook her head. I'm just tired, that's all. But Clara sat on the couch beside her. You don't smile anymore, Lila. I've known you forever. You're hiding something. Lila looked down. She opened her mouth to speak but closed it again. The words were too heavy. Does Thomas know? Clara asked softly. Lila's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head. No, he can't. Clara held her hand. You need to decide, Lila. Whatever this is, it's eating you alive. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Inside, Lila sat frozen, lost between guilt and fear, between the man who loved her and the man who didn't. She whispered, I don't know how to stop. And the rain kept falling. The next few days moved slowly. Lila tried her best to act normal. She cleaned the house, made Thomas's favorite meals, and even smiled when he came home. But every smile she gave him felt like a lie. Inside her heart, she was drowning. Thomas noticed. He was a gentle man, but he wasn't blind. Every time he looked into her eyes, he felt like she wasn't fully there, like her body was in front of him, but her heart was somewhere far away. One evening, he came home early with a surprise. "Guess what?" he said, hanging his coat. "My boss is hosting a small dinner this Friday. Just 5 couples. He invited us." I said yes. Lila froze. "Why?" Thomas smiled. "Because I want you to meet some new people. I think getting out will be good for us." She forced a smile. "Sure. Friday sounds fine." But inside, her chest tightened. Damon always messaged her on Fridays. That night, when Thomas fell asleep, Lila sat on the balcony. The night was quiet, and the moon glowed softly in the sky. She held her phone tightly in her hand. A message came in. "Damon, same hotel, same time Friday?" She stared at the screen, her hands cold. Slowly, she typed back, "I can't. I have dinner plans." Seconds later, he replied, "You never say no to me." Lila didn't answer. Friday came quickly. She dressed slowly, putting on a long red dress that hugged her figure. Her hair was curled, her makeup soft but flawless. Thomas walked into the room and stopped. "Wow," he said with a smile. "You look beautiful." Lila felt her throat tighten. "Thank you," she whispered. At the dinner party, the room was warm and bright. Soft music played in the background. Other couples laughed and talked. Thomas held Lila's hand proudly, but Lila's mind was a storm. She laughed when she had to, nodded when people spoke to her, but she wasn't fully there. Her mind kept drifting to the hotel, to Damon, to the fire she knew was wrong but couldn't stop chasing. As the evening went on, Thomas noticed her silence. "Are you okay?" he whispered at the table. "I'm fine," she said, "just tired." After dessert, they stepped outside for air. The night was cool. A light breeze brushed her face. Thomas looked at her, his eyes deep and kind. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" She nodded quickly. "Of course." He touched her cheek. "I love you, Lila, more than anything." Tears filled her eyes. "I love you too," she said, but her voice cracked. And then he asked something she didn't expect. "Are you happy with me?" The question cut through her like a blade. She looked at him, at the man who would give her the world, and she didn't know how to answer. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm trying," she whispered. Thomas didn't say anything else. He just pulled her close and held her tightly. But as he held her, she looked over his shoulder into the night and felt the weight of her secret pressing harder than ever. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the bedroom. Birds chirped outside the window like nothing was wrong. But inside Lila's chest, everything was falling apart. She hadn't slept all night. Her head rested on Thomas's chest as he slept peacefully. He looked so calm, so innocent. Every breath he took reminded her of how much he loved her, and how much she had hurt him. Her phone buzzed again. "Damon, Damon, I know you still want me. Meet me today. One last time." Lila stared at the message. She thought about the lies, the sneaking around, the guilt, the fear, and the nights she cried in the bathroom because she couldn't look herself in the mirror. She gently moved Thomas's arm and got out of bed. In the bathroom, she looked at herself again in the mirror. Her hair was messy, her eyes were tired, but for the first time in a long while, she saw the truth. She wasn't in love with Damon. She was chasing a feeling of danger, of being wanted, of escaping her normal life. But that escape came with a price. And now, she had to choose. She walked out of the bathroom, picked up her phone, and typed a reply. "Lila, no, don't call me again." She blocked Damon's number. Her hands were shaking, but her heart felt lighter. Later that day, Lila sat with Thomas on the porch. The sun was warm on their skin. She looked at him, really looked at him, the man who gave her his whole heart. "Thomas," she said softly, "I need to tell you something." He turned to her with curious eyes. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. Her hands were sweating. Her heart was racing. "I haven't been honest with you, and I'm so sorry." Thomas didn't speak right away. His face changed slowly, from calm, to confusion, to heartbreak. The silence between them was heavy. Lila cried. She didn't hide it. She told him the truth, every part of it. About Damon, about the lies, about the guilt that ate her alive. When she finished, Thomas stood up quietly. He walked down the steps of the porch and stood on the grass, facing away from her. Lila waited, wiping her tears, shaking inside. Finally, He turned around. His voice was calm, but his eyes were full of pain. You didn't have to be perfect. I just needed you to be honest. She sobbed. I know. I didn't deserve you. He nodded. No, but I loved you anyway. They didn't hug. They didn't kiss. They just sat in silence, letting the truth settle like dust on the wind. That night, Lila slept in the guest room. The road ahead would be hard. Maybe there would be healing, maybe there wouldn't, but the lies had finally stopped. She had broken something precious, something that might never be whole again, but for the first time in a long time, she was free. Moral lesson: when you betray the love of someone faithful, you don't just break their heart, you break your own soul. No thrill, no secret, and no desire is worth the trust you destroy. Honesty may be hard, but dishonesty destroys everything beautiful that love tries to build. Thank you so much for being part of the Infidelity Love family. Your love, support, likes, comments, and shares mean the world to us. Every view you give, every word you write, helps us continue telling deep, emotional stories that matter, stories that heal, teach, and touch the soul. We don't take your support for granted. Whether you're here for the drama, the lessons, or the healing, just know this: you are seen, valued, and appreciated. Let's keep growing, learning, and feeling together. From all of us at Infidelity Love, thank you from the bottom of our heart.